Members, this is the appointed time and we have a quorum. So I call to order today's meeting. Information papers issued since the last meeting. We have received several information paper. The first one being CB bracket 19019/1314 bracket 01, which is a referral arising from the meeting between electrical members and Wan Chai District Council members regarding the introduction of legislation on the control of light pollution. The second paper, CB bracket 1930/1314 bracket 01, referral from the Public Accounts Committee on issues relating to implementation of air quality improvement measures. A referral memo, an extract of the relevant report have been received for follow-up action by the panel. Third paper, CB bracket 1956/1314 bracket 01, a food waste and yard waste plan for Hong Kong 2014 to 2022, provided by the administration. And today, a pile of submissions. Some 30-odd submissions have been tabled, all related to the submission on moving grade incineration or gas prioritization, and items for discussion at the next meeting. Members can look at the list of follow-up actions and list of outstanding items for discussion. The administration has suggested that we discuss the matters on Hong Kong's municipal solid waste recovery rate and handling of imported waste. And last week, in the administration's consultancy report, it was discovered that the formula for calculating the recovery rate used internationally, if applied to Hong Kong, amounted to a discrepancy of 9%, and mostly is related to plastic waste. So we've urged the administration to give us the report and have a discussion as soon as possible. We will look at the errors in the old formula and see how we will devise the new one. The other issue is Pilot Green Transport Fund. Apart from these two, I'll see if members would propose other items. If not, then on to item 3 of the agenda, incident of leachate from the Northeast New Territories landfill. I'll invite the administration in first. We have two papers related to this item. One from the administration, CB bracket 1797/1314 bracket 01, progress report on the incident of leachate from the Northeast New Territories landfill, NENT landfill, provided by the administration, and CB bracket 1916/1314 bracket 01, which is a background brief prepared by the Electoral Secretariat. And we have attending today's meeting from the administration, Ms. Christine Law, Under Secretary for the Environment, Mr. Ted Chi-wan, Deputy Director of Environmental Protection, Mr. Howard Chan, Deputy Director of Environmental Protection, and Dr. Alan Chen, Assistant Director of EPD, and Mr. David Wong, Assistant Director of EPD. So over to you, Under Secretary. Please walk us through the paper. In September, we reported the issues to members, and some information was not submitted last time. So on this occasion, myself and my colleagues would like to take this opportunity to take questions. This item would... Now, I'd like to reiterate a few points. After the incident happened, we attach importance to the environmental impact, and fortunately, there was none, and I don't think members have further queries on it. On the leakage incident, I think in the paper we have given a full explanation, and there were questions posed in September. First, on how we could reduce the chance of repeating such an incident again in the future. And myself and my colleagues would be happy to take questions should there be any further questions from members, and whether there was any further leakage. And as members could see, there is no further leakage now. And during that time, there were questions from the media, etc., on whether there was further leakage and what was leaked. And in September and October, we uploaded all information online, and this information is updated every Friday. And so far you can see that there hasn't been any further leakage, and this matter should be regarded as resolved at the moment. In terms of transparency, whether this can be improved, then of course for the leakage at landfills, we update information online for public access. This is a mechanism, and we also have a new committee, and any issue related to landfills will be briefed to members at the committee. Of course, if there is a major incident, we will announce to the public immediately. And lastly, on the contractual relationship and liability concerning the contractor, I think members will also understand from media reports that we have taken legal action against the contractor. And if you're interested in when this case will be mentioned in court, we're happy to inform members. And apart from taking the case to court against the contractor, there are quite a number of disputes, and the procedure is ongoing. Perhaps I'll pause here, Madam Chair, so that members can have more time to ask questions. Any supplement from the department? I think we'll take questions from members. 4 members would like to ask questions. They've raised their hands, and the next agenda item is important as well. So would those who would like to ask questions please raise your hand so that I can allocate time properly. Mr. Gary Chan, Mr. Yik Chi Ming, and Mr. Kenneth Leung and Dr. Elizabeth Quat raised their hands, and that's the number of members so far. 4 minutes each. Mr. Gary Chan. Now on the Targuling leakage incident, it's been a while since the report was released, and yet after reading today's paper, I still have no idea what is the cause of the leakage. In the administration's paper, in terms of the failure of the impermeable liner, it may have to do with the liner material failure. It may also have to do with heavy rains a few days before the incident. So after reading the whole report, we still don't have any specific idea the cause of the leakage. And if no explanation can be provided in this paper, we're concerned whether similar incident would occur to the temporary leachate storage lagoons in other landfills, and residents living in those areas will be gravely concerned. After making investigation, why are there 2 points of uncertainty which you haven't been able to explain? If the continuous heavy rain had been the cause, then it would be difficult to prevent an incident. And there are also such similar lagoons in other landfills, so it's important that you tell us how you're going to prevent this from happening again. And the second question, in Annex 1, Annex A, in terms of summary of water quality testing results, basically on the major chemicals, they're up to standard, but for ammonia nitrogen, you can see towards the end, it's not up to standard. It has had it to do with the leakage incident. And the Secretary, I'll defer to Dr. Chen. Thank you, Mr. Chen, for your question. Now about the leakage from the temporary leachate storage lagoon, as explained before, it was because of the a leak or a hole in the polymer or polyvinyl temporary leachate storage lagoon, and because of the continuous heavy rain, it possibly the soil around it had loosened, causing a downward pulling force and causing some sharper pieces of rock to create this hole. In this report, technically we don't have any differing views on the cause. And for material failure, it's not very likely because it's very highly it's a polymer of high density, and it has also been acknowledged by a number of standards. So maybe it's due to a spate of factors, continuous heavy rain being one of them. And as for the latter part of Mr. Chan's question, how can we prevent similar incidents from occurring in the future? We have a number of measures. We at present are using a single layer of impermeable liners, and in future we're going to use double polyvinyl liners, and with a layer of bentonite in between, so that even if there is a hole, there won't be any leakage. This is a double protection. And on the surface, we're going to increase cover so that even during heavy rain, the runoff will not cause soil to re-loosen so easily. What about spilling out? As for the matter of spilling, last year the existing storage lagoons have been quite full, and during heavy rains there was a higher risk. But now, during the drought season, we have cleared the lagoons, and therefore there will be sufficient capacity to contain the rainwater, so that at other landfills there won't be the problem of spilling. Mr. Yi Chiming. And on monitoring, can you tell us how you will monitor the leakage, Dr. Chan? On monitoring, we'll first of all, for on-site contractors, we will ask them to ensure that their performance is up to standard. This is a contractual requirement.
Apart from the staff of the contractor, we also have an independent consultant on site. It is an independent team. It assists the government in supervising the work of the contractor on the landfill. And thirdly, there are colleagues of the EPD who are stationed at the landfills. They have to inspect and patrol. They have to patrol and inspect the operation of the landfill, and they have to take water samples. At a lower cost, taking water samples to do regular testing. Is it the case? Yes, indeed. Our colleagues will do that. And the contractor is also bound by the contract to do so. And we also do independent checks and test samples. We've also, in this case, asked a professor of the Open U to take samples and give us independent advice. How regular is it? We are taking samples on a weekly basis. As said by the Undersecretary just now, we announced that data on a weekly basis on the website. That is based on the test we do every week. The service water will not go into Kongyo channel. And therefore, if there is no rain, then we can take no samples at all. Mr. Kenneth Leung. Now, we're told that there are regular water samples taken. Now, you don't know when the leakage will occur, even if you have strengthened the material. Is there any automatic testing mechanism to discover that there is any leakage? And that problem detection mechanism is very important. You don't just check once every week. Is there an automatic detection mechanism? As for paper CB1 916-1314-01. Now it said that you have reviewed all the emergency response program and notification mechanism for all waste treatment facilities to make sure that similar matters will not occur. What is your review outcome? And are you happy with the current notification system? If you are not happy with the current system, have you introduced any improvement measures? Dr. Chen, please. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Leung, for the question. Now, if there is any leakage and whether we have any monitoring mechanism. In fact, for each lagoon, we have a scale to measure the water level or the leachate level. If we have not done any pumping and we've discovered a change in water level, then something abnormal must have happened. As for the overall impermeable liner, it is okay. The question in line is the end point is the temporary leachate lagoon. As for the measurement of the as for the landfill as a whole, we measure the underground. We test the underground water. And if there is any problem with underground water, then there is a problem with the whole landfill. And therefore, we are monitoring the underground water quality very carefully. As for the notification mechanism for the waste treatment facilities, such incidents may include demonstration or something happened after the typhoon. The nature of the incident differs. As for whether we immediately notify the stakeholders immediately, say if it is to be closed, say if facility is to be closed, then we'll have to tell the trade, the transport trade, the waste management trade, and also the FEHD. As for this incident, we have informed one or two village representatives nearby because there are horticulturalists nearby. And we need to, we do inform our neighboring stakeholders. Of course, we can make further improvements, and therefore, we say we have already put up information on the internet. We also have liaison groups, and even if there is no incident, we are happy to provide data through the liaison group. So, are you happy with your present notification mechanism? Is there anything which you are unhappy? According to your reply, it seems that you are quite happy with your notification mechanism. Well, we believe that there is room for improvement always. Depending, or rather, whether we should immediately inform the LegCo, I think there is room for improvement. I think you better then give us a paper on how to make improvement. Where is the room and how is the improvement to be made instead of giving a solemn undertaking? Ms. Elizabeth Quat. Now you have already got an emergency response mechanism and a new notification mechanism. Is my understanding correct? They are all new. I think your main concern is about leakage. Concerning the test of the samples or test results of the samples, members are concerned about it. Since members of this council and also the public are very concerned about it and they have doubts, let us don't argue. We take the water samples and we put the results on the internet. When you see that, then it will be helpful. It has addressed your questions or reduced your doubts. As for the taking of samples, how is it to be done? We've agreed that we and the contractors take the samples, and we've agreed, and then we test, and then we give the results online. That's highly transparent. there is also a special committee. It doesn't just deal with leakage, and we don't want any leakage in the future. It was an accident, and such accidents should not occur very frequently. As explained by Dr. Chan, we have already taken measures to reduce the risk. As for the committee itself, it will be a forum for exchanging views in respect of landfills. And if there is any incident, we can also work through various channels to inform the public. Now, apart from the mechanism, you also improve the plastic. Can I put it this way? Now, temperature changes, humidity changes, rain comes and goes. They are changing all the time. How can you prevent the reoccurrence of the matter? In answering Mr. Chan, you say that you have cleaned up the place and there is little chance of leakage. But if there is a very heavy downpour, will you be able to prevent the reoccurrence of this incident? At present, it is the liner that was broken. The liner of the lagoon was broken. And Dr. Chan explained the various reasons for that. We say that is really abnormal. That is extraordinary. Now, spring is coming. The rainy season is coming. At the landfill, there is extra capacity. When there is more rain, then the water can be collected in another lagoon. In fact, Dr. Chan mentioned various measures. It's not just a single measure. Now, in building new lagoons, one more layer will be provided, but there are other measures. Mr. Tony Chair, we are all concerned about it, and we want to minimize the reoccurrence of the incident. Can the administration clarify this? Para 7. That is said that there will be a floating cover for the lagoons. Is it really useful? Say during typhoon, during a storm, will the floating cover be effective? And also in paragraph 13. In respect of the contractor, action will be taken according to the contract. Have you taken action? Or we would like to be informed of the outcome of your action in the future. Para 14, concerning the notification mechanism. I'm equally concerned, like other members. I think that's about emergency response. Immediate emergency response. Can you explain to us in greater detail? The notification mechanism is to respond to any incident so as to minimize the adverse impacts. So what exactly is that notification mechanism? And then paragraph 15 is said that prosecution against the contractor was initiated on 21st of January 2014. I believe that's according to the law. Can more details be disclosed? 3 questions. As for paragraphs 13 and 15, Mr. Chair will respond to the 2 questions, and paragraph 7 and paragraph 14, Dr. Chan will respond. Mr. Chair. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Member, for the question. In July, August, when the leakage occurred, that was in breach of the licensing condition. We took samples, and we found quite a number of samples exceeded the legal limits. Therefore, we are now talking to the DOJ on a prosecution initiative. On the 21st of January, we issued our summons. We issued summons to the contractor, and we are still talking to the DOJ on other incidents. We believe several samples have exceeded the legal limits. We will soon take out new prosecutions. As for the contract, the contractor has the responsibility to properly deal with the leachate. That's in the contract. We are looking at the contract conditions. If there is any breach of contract conditions, we can deduct money from the payment to the contractor. But it's a contract. We need to talk to the contractor because we do not see eye to eye with each other. Dr. Chen, thank you, Chairman, and thank you to the member for the two questions. First, concerning the floating cover. Now, when there is a heavy rain, if there is no cover, then the temporary leachate lagoons will collect rainwater as well, and water level will rise. In the future, the new lagoons will have a floating cover so as not to receive additional rainwater, thereby reducing the pressure on the lagoons. As for emergency response, the response of the incident in question was that the contractor and our site colleagues tried to build earth berms to direct to guide the way the leachate and pump the leachate into the area to keep the water leachate within the area. And since the volume is high, we some of the leachate escaped into the Kongyu Channel. On every incident, there will be site staff responding to the incident according to circumstances.
Sir, KK Fung. Madam Chair, I'd like to ask some questions on the principles. Now, in terms of waste management, throughout the process, if the process along the chain has not been done properly, then I'm against managing waste at landfills. I don't think the steps are sufficient. One is recycling, how the mechanism can be improved for more materials to be recycled. The other is about waste to energy. According to media reports, by 2022, in terms of food waste, only about 2,000 tons would be treated. Others would be sent to landfills. Do you have a more detailed plan? Last year, Secretary, you went with us to South Korea, and in a few years' time, they will be pushing down the food waste tip rate to 8%. And for Germany, for example, the rate is even lower, as low as 1%. So will we further reduce the food waste, which stands at the 1,500 tons at the moment? And secondly, there are many food waste management companies complaining a lack of support from the government. So what support were you given to Mr. Frederick Fung on the management of food waste? I think it belongs to the next item on the agenda to be discussed. It will be discussed in detail. And we're talking about the last leakage incident at the Northeast New Territories landfill and the improvement works. Yes, I'll save my questions for the next item. Anything to supplement from the administration in terms of leakage due to food waste? I think this is a question about the future. Mr. Lee Chok-yen, I see the administration has launched a number of measures to rectify the situation, so to speak, but I want to put it on record that the government has a default position, that is, to protect the contractor. I think it has to be recorded here that I am very dissatisfied with this default position. And the Labour Party and Dr. Fernando Cheung received complaints from residents, and the government jumped out to speak at once and said that it had nothing to do with him. And of course, we should look forward, we should look at the improvements. But one point I wish to make is that when complaints are received in the future, the government should not have a default position. Just put the blame on the ignorance of local residents and that the contractor is faultless and there is no impact. The explanation given to us at the time was that it was not relevant, but eventually it was found that the contractor was related to the incident. So it's a matter of trust. If originally you said that the contractor was not related and subsequently it was found to be related, it's hard for us to keep that trust. The Labour Party is dissatisfied because throughout the whole incident the government is trying to cover up for the contractor. Well, of course, eventually we welcome prosecution action against the contractor and other improvement measures on the monitoring of contractor. We hope that it could be done properly. I'm sorry, I don't quite understand what the issue is about, because it's a leakage incident. It's a leakage of leachate. We have not made any excuse on behalf of the contractor. No, at that time we were given the explanation that it had not to do with the leakage. I mean, residents complained of sewage and polluted water, and we were told that it had not to do with this contractor, but due to other causes which caused the leakage. So my point is, don't just tell local residents that it had to do with something else, natural reasons or otherwise, when the government received complaints. Now, I think indeed initially the government explained to the local residents that it had not to do with the leachate leakage, but due to other natural reasons, polluted water flowing downstream causing the water quality problem at Kongyu Channel. And due to heavy rains, it was found that there was water runoff. And I would defer to Mr. Chair. Thank you for the member for the question, and I'd like to explain the ins and outs of the question. Last June, Dr. Fernando Cheung received some complaints concerning the leakage of leachate from the NENT landfill, and at that time, the leachate leaked into the Pingyu River, and we had two teams of staff. For the team responsible for the contract, well, you may be concerned whether they would be favoring the contractor. But we also had another team, the enforcement team. The enforcement team went with Dr. Fernando Cheung to Pingyu Hall, and indeed there was some red soil along the river. But in the end, it was tested and found to be iron, which caused a reddish color. It was actually coming from the mineral rather than from the leakage. And the leakage happened on the 27th of July. That is after the complaint. And if the water was to go downstream from the hill, it would flow to the Kongyu River instead of Pingyu River. And we therefore, upon investigation, found that the pollution at Pingyu River was not caused by the leakage. Dr. Kenneth Chan. Please turn on the mic for Dr. Kenneth Chan. Fortunately, I'm not muted yet. On enforcement action, the Bureau is discussing with the Department of Justice Is it mainly focused on some provisions of the water pollution control ordinance? That is, for first offenders, a certain penalty will be imposed. And from the answers given by the administration, they seem to be suggesting that it was an accident due to unforeseen reasons, heavy rain, etc., that happened. And if the government's position is that it is an accident, I am wondering whether under the Water Pollution Control Ordinance, the contractor will be saying that it's not a deliberate discharge, but because of the unprecedented heavy rain, discharge was given into the Kongyu Channel. So my first question is on whether any defense provisions are provided under the Water Pollution Control Ordinance so that the contractor can rely on the reasons of, say, the weather, so that to prove that he is innocent and that he hasn't learned a lesson and the whole enforcement action is just a fake one. Mr. Chair, this is a very important point, and that is why we need to discuss with the Department of Justice whether there is sufficient evidence to initiate prosecution. We raised these issues with the Department of Justice, and we believe, according to the permits requirement and the existing legislation, there should not be any pollution. It's a matter of whether the contractor has implemented any measures to prevent any leakage or discharge of polluted materials. And having considered the evidence, we have decided that there is enough evidence to press charges. And of course, there might be other defense put up by the contractor. It's hard to make any conjecture here. I also have some follow-up question. Around the landfill, there are a number of channel or rivers, and apart from leakage from the landfill, as mentioned by Mr. Chair, there could be other minerals or soil in the surrounding containing polluted substance, and because of heavy rain had flushed into the river or the channel. But once the water there is polluted, you do not have a mechanism to swiftly confirm the source of pollution. If this question is not answered, we won't have any confidence in the landfill. Mr. Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair, for your question. Now, as explained by Dr. Chan, for the bottom layer of the landfill, we have an underground runoff monitoring system. And at different points of the sewage network, we take samples because we want to ensure the structure of the whole landfill is safe and that there is no leakage. And should there be any leakage at different points where samples are collected, we will be able to identify the locations concerned. So first of all, we need to ensure that there is no problem with the overall structure of the landfill. And in this incident, there is a hole created for in a temporary leachate storage lagoon, causing the leakage of leachate. We are confident that as for leakage from the landfill, that never happened. My concern is once pollution is identified, how can you track the source of pollution? You need to be specific in finding out where it comes from. Maybe I will give more specific and scientific facts. Now, we'll take water samples at certain locations when by then we can know when the pollution comes from. And for if it's a leakage of leachate, it will contain a huge amount of ammonia nitrogen, and it is a very easily identified chemical. So we can trace it down very easily. That's why for the upstream we collected the polluted water, and we found that it's coming from the landfill because the level of ammonia nitrogen exceeded the the normal level. So we were confident about our findings. As for the case for Pingyuan River, we didn't find any content of ammonia nitrogen, and the reddish color actually came from the mineral in the soil rather than the landfill. So much for this item. We move on to the fourth agenda item, environmental infrastructure projects. That's the extension of the 3 landfills and the so-called integrated waste management facilities phase 1. That's the incinerator paper. The administration has provided a paper, CB bracket 1931/1314/01, and also an updated background brief prepared by the Electrical Secretariat 951/1314/03, and also an information note IN 06/1314, letter from Dr. Kenneth Chan, submission from Range Education Center Environment Concern Group, and also submissions from the Cheung Chau Rural Committee, and also the submission after the meeting held between electrical members and Tuen Mun District Council, and also some 30-odd submissions received today, which has been tabled. Now we have from the administration, Secretary for Environment, Mr. Wong Kim Sing, Under Secretary for Environment, Ms. Christine Law, and also Mr. Howard Chen, Deputy Director of Environmental Protection, and Dr. Alan Chan, Assistant Director, and we also have Political Assistant to Secretary Ms. Michelle Au, and Mr. Lawrence La, Principal Environmental Protection Officer, Mr. Elvis Au, Assistant Director, and Mr. Lim Ping Han, Principal Environmental Protection Officer. So, Secretary, over to you. Thank you, Madam Chair, members. Today, we will talk about the relevant environmental infrastructure projects on waste management. I have a presentation to make, but before I begin, I'd like members to understand that this new administration, the Environment Bureau, my colleagues and myself, would like to take a pragmatic approach and a bold approach to resolve this landing problem. Together with the people of Hong Kong, we take a multi-pronged approach. We're not favoring the construction of any kind of infrastructure for any highly densely populated international cities. Infrastructures for food waste and other waste management should be considered in parallel. If we just have one kind of facilities but not other, it's not pragmatic.
We are not mainly promoting infrastructure, but today's item is about expansion of landfills and also the building of incinerator. That is, it doesn't mean that the government just emphasizes on infrastructure and nothing else. In last year's Pulse Address, the solid waste reduction in Hong Kong in comparison with other advanced cities, tens of percentages higher than other cities. At that time, the disposal facility will be filled up within 7 years. Now we only have less than 7. That's a crisis. That's the fact. Even if we adopt a multi-pronged approach to promote reduction at source, it also takes time. We are introducing a number of producer responsibility schemes, and we are discussing the details on waste charging. And we take very different measures to reduce the pressure on our disposal infrastructure, including the landfills and incinerator. We have a 10-year recycling blueprint, and we adopt a 5-pronged approach to deal with the matter. In the first policy address, we started the consultation of waste charging by the Sustainability Development Council, and we also strengthen the recycling facilities. Now, food waste per capita in Hong Kong is 100% more than those in Taiwan and South Korea. Therefore, we introduced the Food Wise campaign. We reduce waste at source. We also step up recycling, and we are enhancing our recycling facilities. And we support the development of recycling business. That was also in last year's policy address. So last May, we introduced the recycling blueprint, or the blueprint for sustainable use of resources. Now we have to make changes within 10 years. In Taiwan, in South Korea, they have a period of 10 to 20 years of evolution. We know that we also need to do it step by step. We have the 5-step approach: reduction at source, food wise, clean recycling, turning waste into energy, and more hygienic waste transportation. We are very aggressive. Within 10 years, we reduce the dumping of waste or disposal of waste in our disposal facilities by 40%. That is very specific. In this year's policy address, the CE reiterated the blueprint, this aggressive target. There is timetable, there are plans, there is a plan. Waste charging is a government, has now become a government policy. We will implement the polluter or the pay principle. The more one dumps, the more one pays. In South Korea, in Taipei, they are able to achieve reduction in waste because of because of waste charging. Now, as for waste charging, we have completed the public engagement process. We will receive the report from the council very soon, and we will continue to move ahead. And we are moving in different stages of producer responsibility arrangement or schemes. Now, this time the government has done the most in terms of this. We will expand our community network support recycling, and each district will have a community recycling station, and we also have a comprehensive strategy for organic waste. We have therefore published our plan to deal with food waste. Now we have a scheme from now to 2012, reduce waste by 40%. In terms of recycling, we have formed a steering committee to provide land. We have also set up a recycling fund. In terms of waste management, that is a breakthrough. We know that because of the long-standing problem, we need we need waste disposal facilities. We will try to talk to the people, minimize the adverse impacts, and we try to benefit the community as well. As for the distribution of waste treatment, waste disposal facilities, there are various waste disposal facilities throughout Hong Kong. Say the chemical waste treatment works in Cheng Yi, refuse transfer stations in the various parts of Hong Kong, and we also have organic waste recycling center in different districts. They are evenly distributed. Each infrastructural item requires a lot of time for planning and for seeking funding. It may take more than 10 years for a facility. We are running out of time. As for the 3 landfills and also the incinerator in Shek Kwu Chau, they are just like the 4 legs of a chair. It is spread throughout the territory. If you look at the map, you can see that different parts of Hong Kong are sharing the responsibility of providing for the waste treatment facilities. As for the modern incinerator, or we call it the integrated waste management facility. In fact, it was proposed long time ago. In 2012, it was not supported by this council. It faced JR. Even the government won. The first round is still before the Court of Appeal. Even if we are doing our best in terms of reduction at source, food waste recycling, another recycling, the landfills in Hong Kong will soon be saturated between 2016 to 2019 in the coming 5 or 6 years. How are we going to deal with waste? The community members of this council, the government have to face this issue realistically. As for this 3+1 waste treatment infrastructure, if the 3+1 infrastructural items do not get the support of this council and get the funding, then we have to deal with tons and tons and tons of waste every day. That's the problem. If the disposal facilities have obtained funding from this council, our proposal is this. The incinerator is facing JR. That may take a year or so. Our view is that we need to consider the best interests of the community. Therefore, we start the tendering exercise for the incinerator, but the award of the tender will not be decided before the conclusion of the litigation. This will enable Hong Kong to make use of the time available to deal with so that Hong Kong can build an incinerator, can then deal with 3,000 tons of waste every day. I think even if we get the funding, the incinerator can only be completed by 2022 to deal with part of the waste generated in Hong Kong. Now, by putting in more efforts in waste reduction, after putting in much effort in waste reduction and food waste recycling and other recycling, we still need to rely on incinerators and landfills. We will have to continue to find suitable technology to dispose of waste. We will, in the future, we will not be landfilling our municipal waste or domestic waste. The long term, this is our long-term target. As for the 3 landfills and 1 incinerator, we are putting before you the expansion of Ta Kwu Ling landfill and raising the project of the Twin Moon landfill to Category A. The 2 projects have passed through the Environmental Affairs Panel. So the question before members today is the expansion of Cheung Kwan O landfill and the Sek Kwu Chau incinerator. We asked the EA panel and also the PWSC to approve these 2 items. And then afterwards, the 3+1 items will be considered by the FC together. We've heard the responses of the citizens. The 3+1 facilities should be considered throughout the territory. in 4 directions. Now let me now turn to Cheung Kwan O landfill. According to this drawing, the nearest development is Lohas Park. It is about 1 kilometer. As for the expansion, it will be towards the other side of the slope. So in terms of expansion, the expansion portion will be further away from the residents. That will be 1 or 2 kilometers away. And it will be on the other side of the slope, and the impact on the nearest residents will be minimized. And we are going to make a lot of improvements in order to address the concerns of the district, and they can be categorized into 3 areas and more than 10 measures. Comprehensive concern, setting up of a district liaison group to address the management of such facilities. Number 2, the expansion portion will be further away from the residents. Number 3, there will be long-term planning study on such facilities. Number 4, step-up reinstatement of landfill so as to pay back the community. We can recover a large part of the landfill for public use. And there will be a monitoring station measuring PM 2.5 to provide data. The measurements show that the air quality of this place is similar to that of other parts of Hong Kong, and we will wash up Wan Po Road more often, and we will enhance the transfer arrangement. In the future, the expanded portion of the landfill will only receive C&D waste, and that will reduce the number of trips by 500, and we will cease operation during holidays so that people can have a more quiet environment. And the next is about reducing odor.
And we have an on-site monitoring team, and we have greatly reduced the nuisance caused by RCVs, and we'll also step up enforcement against fly tipping and leakage, and we also install CCTV to tackle the illegal fly tipping. And in Tuen Mun, there will be a new facility for sludge treatment facilities. Well, they will be treated there instead of landfills gradually. And also, in the future, only construction waste will be sent to landfills to tackle the odor problem. In terms of locations, it's situated southwest of Hong Kong. It mainly serves Hong Kong and Kowloon West. So from this diagram, you can see that it's more convenient for waste to be transported there. The journey by sea can be cut short by 1/4, so the Shek Koo Chow could manage the waste generated in the vicinities. And to the southwest of Shek Koo Chow, there is a small reclaimed area for the proposed modern incineration facility. And as for the wind directions, usually coming from east to from northeast, and this can minimize the impact on the environment, and it will be situated behind a hill and will minimize the visual impact caused to Cheung Chau residents. We also understand that the DCs have a number of requests, mainly 4 of them. That is, the emission standards should meet the EU standard, and there should be a district community or liaison community for monitoring by both parties, and there should be sufficient EGAs allowance as compensation to fishermen and mariculturists. And also on the highest EU standards. On the whole, this will be showcase green architecture we will adopt the latest, the most advanced incineration technology, and we will impose the most stringent environmental control standards to reduce the waste volume, and there will also be a desalination plant and reuse of treated, polluted water for irrigation. And that's maybe I'll pause here. Thank you, Madam Chair. Today we urge members to focus their discussion and give us their comments on the the extension of 3 landfills and the modern incinerator. We have 11 members who have raised their hands, or 12, waiting to ask questions. I'll read out the names in order: Gary Chan, Elizabeth Quat, Kenneth Chan, Frederick Fong, Alice Mack, Helena Wong, Kwok Ka Ki, Ben Chen, Stephen Ho, Uchi Wai, Kenneth Leung, Gary Fan, Dennis Kwok, Kwok Wai Kung, and Frankie Yik. Have I missed out anyone? Have I? Apart from 2 members who have not raised their hands, I see everybody here have raised their hands. So we have 15 members. I will allocate 4 minutes at this moment. Apart from Vincent Fang and Mrs. Virginia Yip, who haven't raised their hands, all other members have raised their hands. We may have a second round, and there is not another meeting after 4:30 in this room, so we can extend the meeting by at least 15 minutes. And if other members come in and raise their hands, I may have to draw a line there. Mr. Gary Chan, 4 minutes each. I agree to the principle of the territory-wide responsibility for the treatment of waste, and that there should be obnoxious waste treatment facilities across the territory. However, very often we listen to the views of the community. They have proposed different compensation measures, for example, giving them waivers for electricity tariff or MSW charges, and the administration hasn't really responded to these requests. So, Secretary, can you give an undertaking here, or tell us how you will respond to these requests on the waiving of electricity tariff and MSW charges? And apart from the incinerator, apart from having controversies over the technology to be adopted and the location, we understand that this incinerator is very costly, $18.2 billion. One of the reasons is that the 2 construction projects are linked, and I'm talking about construction of incinerator and reclamation. There are different contractors which are good at, for example, reclamation or incinerator, but we don't have many contractors who are good at both. Can you separate these 2 projects into 2 separate contracts? And if not, can you tell us why? I need to observe the time limit strictly. Thank you, Mr. Chan, for your question. Let me take the second question first. This construction is a special modern incineration technology. So we have not adopted a design, build, and operate model. Normally, in other projects, we will ask a consultant to design it and then for another contractor to construct it, and this is a different approach, because this will allow a team to fine-tune the reclamation proposal to the construction of the facility. This is the most appropriate way forward, and time is tight for these facilities to be built. We want to have them completed as soon as possible. That is why we have adopted this DOB model, and we lump the 2 projects together under one contract because we think this is the most appropriate way forward. And I also understand Mr. Chan's comments. Sometimes in other jurisdictions we see incinerators provided together with some community facilities, and for restored landfills, the space can also be used to serve the community. But is it a must? For example, in South Korea, they also put facilities near the neighborhood. For example, in a 300-meter circumference, the neighborhood that may be living too close to the incinerator, and so they will get compensation. But I welcome comments from members on the criteria to be adopted and the amount of compensation. I'm sorry, no time for you to answer. And we have 14 members, and if they all spend 4 minutes in the questioning, we will be running behind schedule. Dr. Elizabeth Quat. Yes, we understand that waste management is an imminent issue, and this time we have this 3+1 proposal. Many people and community and concerned groups will be very worried, because will the government just go ahead with the 3+1 proposal and neglect all other initiatives? Recently on the blueprint on food waste, well, even with this blueprint, we're unable to resolve all the food waste problems in Hong Kong. So people are concerned whether the government would only place emphasis on the 3+1 proposal. I'd like to know more details. Thank you, Dr. Quat. The government's position is that we'd like to take a multi-pronged approach and strike a balance in different management strategies. We have issued a blueprint for the management of resources, and we have recently launched a blueprint for food waste, and to reduce the waste disposal rate by 40% in 10 years is a serious target. My team and myself are serious in implementing initiatives to reach this target. Now, for example, on MSW charge, this will be implemented to show the government's determination on managing waste. And for South Korea and Taiwan as examples, quantity-based MSW charging is the core of their waste management policies, and they will at the same time roll out other recycling initiatives, etc. So we're going to take those on as well. As for whether or how we can extend the initiative from commercial and industrial sector to domestic sector, even in South Korea and Taiwan, they cannot do it overnight. And in terms of food waste, it's more difficult for us to tackle, because in Taiwan they have the agricultural industry and harboring industry and husbandry industry, and we encourage volunteers, and we also contact the private sector. We contact the catering industry, etc., to step up the level of participation on treating food waste from the private sector. Apart from the government, the private sector can also expedite their progress so that we reach the target sooner. We are taking an active approach, but I want to emphasize that we cannot resolve the problem in just one step. We are trying our best. We have this commitment and determination to face the challenge together with the community. I'd also like to follow up on the Cheung Kwan O landfill extension. The administration has, in phases, introduced various improvement measures. And there is a saying that the RCVs have been improved, and yet we still see lots of RCVs in the streets in Cheung Kwan O not covered, and you also have other forms of waste, sludge, etc., being transported to Cheung Kwan O. So can you give us a timetable when the nuisance cost to residents can really be minimized. Very brief, Secretary. We can supplement the details if they are not included in the paper. We are taking a pragmatic approach in tackling these problems as soon as possible. All RCVs should be enclosed for them to use at the landfill. The legislation has been passed. Yes, the legislation has been passed, so they must have them retrofitted. Dr. Kenneth Chen. This issue is very controversial. Otherwise, it's hard to imagine why we're receiving such a huge, thick stack of submissions by the Electoral Secretariat. That's why I wrote in requesting that the public hearing be held so that we can receive views from deputations. I don't think we can give the green light today for this to be submitted from the panel to the PWSC, and we will be going to Europe soon, and Secretary will be taking us to see some incineration technologies there. So there will be further views afterwards, and it will take time for local residents to digest the information. And Mr. Paul Morris, a professor at Lingnan University, has also passed very harsh criticisms on the ideas, and we need time to assimilate the information. And I think we mustn't dodge this issue, and that is the election manifesto of C.Y. Leung during his election. And when the policy address was announced, he made this point. He said that the incinerator would be the last resort, and indeed he said that the top priority would be to reduce waste, to alleviate the pressure on landfill extension and the need for an incinerator. And only when we turn to the last resort will we build an incinerator, and it will be supplemented by community facilities. And he also proposed the concept of recycling to implement the eco-responsibility scheme, and gradually in phases widen the scope of the responsibility scheme. Then the MSW charging scheme will also be implemented widely. So Secretary told us in detail how the measures will be stepped up and how food waste will be recovered and treated. And still there is a shortfall with public expectation. Comparing to C.Y. Leung's election pledge, we are very worried that he will not be honoring his words, and he would only say that it will be put to a study, and that would mean that he has honored his words. So for Chuanguano, it will be extended, and then there will be an incinerator, and then everything else beyond these initiatives will be slowed down.
We are going to expand the PRS scheme, say from electronic goods to tire to packaging materials. We have only seen plastic bags and nothing else. What about other items? How are you going to expand the PRH producer responsibility schemes? Should we just close our eyes and support the program, support your proposal, and then we don't need to follow up other matters? You only have 40 seconds. I'll try to answer the question. Mr. C.Y. Leung, when he made his promise during electioneering, we are now honoring the promises gradually. In fact, the items mentioned by the Policy Secretary are those measures. We have a team here in the Bureau to decide on the facilities and how to provide them. We have a blueprint for food waste, and now we come to infrastructure. Why explain to you why we need a multi-pronged approach? I believe we are able to honor the promise of the CE. Mr. KK Fong. Mr. Wong, I want to refer to your PowerPoint, the 5-pronged approach. Last time when we went with you to Korea, they were doing something similar. My question is, how can you make sure that the 5 prongs are all effective? Reducing waste by 40%, I don't think. I think it's only an overestimate. As for the food-wise schemes, the change of lifestyle, and how much can that achieve in your food-wise campaign? As for clean recycling, for recycling of food waste without a good system, if it is just if you don't do it like a beehive and with all the buckets and boxes, you really can't achieve that, and you are not able to tell us how much you can recycle. As for turning waste into energy, I have talked to the business sector in the food business. They say that the government is not giving much help. There is not enough land, not enough money, not enough policy support. They are young people in their 30s. They are putting everything into this. I just want to know whether you provide more subsidy. Their proposal is to reduce, if one reduce 1 ton of waste, then the amount of money spent on this ton of waste, if it were to the landfill, would be given as a subsidy. And also, will the government give priority to the products from recycling first? You can see that in Korea, there are shops recycling glass, plastic, paper, wood, so on and so forth. If you don't have this, then everything goes to the landfill. And finally, concerning landfill, the expansion is more, or rather, concerning landfilling, your target is 20%. But in Korea, they just have 8% going to the landfills, which shouldn't be worse than Korea. Landfilling is the last resort in other parts of the world, but now your proposal is a landfill accounts for 20%, and that's something I cannot agree. As for incinerator, before there is any outcome from the JR, it's difficult for me to support the proposal. Thank you for the comments. You may be very anxious about the long-standing problems arising from waste disposal. You want to have quick changes. We understand that we want to strengthen our efforts in respect of reducing waste at source, but we need to do it step by step. Say, if we don't do this, and then we'll have to defer the incinerator, then you have to explain why there is a need to delay. I'm not saying the infrastructure should go first. I think reduction at source should go first. But people are asking why we don't have an incinerator. This is a necessary facility for any advanced society. We need to explain why it needed to delay. Our proposal is a two-pronged approach. On one hand, we respect the JR process. We will not give out the contract before the final decision of the court, but we try to speed up the tendering process so as to reduce the size and try to reduce the pressure on the landfills. Ms. Mack, I want to follow up on the point raised by Ms. Clark. What are the measures to help the people affected by the landfills? The law has been passed. When will the measures be implemented so as to minimize the impact on the residents who live near the landfills? Is it people asked to reduce waste at source and then expand landfills and incinerators? The incinerator should be last resort. Why we can't wait? Why we need to be so urgent? Many ask for waste reduction first. Why don't we do that first?
局長再講下咧，究竟焚化爐我哋又等唔切，一定要起啦。堆填區我哋
We can't wait. We need to expand landfills. We need to have the new incinerator. Is it because we really don't have time, and we can't wait for the JR? We need to ask funding very soon. Why is it so urgent?
舒緩措施咧？咁其實我哋係
Mr. Chan, we have adopted a three-prong approach. We introduce immediate we take enforcement action. We carry out abatement measures, and we also step up monitoring. We have a waste distribution program or waste diversion program. The Tseung Kwan O expanded portion of Tseung Kwan O landfill will only receive construction waste. That will reduce about 500 trips of municipal solid waste going to Tseung Kwan O, and that will also reduce the odor. As for law enforcement, in fact, the legislation, the amendment bill has been endorsed by this council, and we will implement the law as soon as possible. As for the diversion of waste, we are talking to the contractors on the diversion routes, and they will have to make arrangements for the trips, and the private collectors will also have to talk to their clients to make the necessary arrangements. We hope the diversion plan will go ahead as soon as possible. As for the construction vehicles, within this year in Kai Tak, there will be a loading area. The C&D waste will be transported from Kai Tak to Tseung Kwan O, and that will reduce the amount of construction vehicles running on the road, in particular in Tseung Kwan O. And the modification of RCVs, 60 odd have been approved, and we will speed up the modification so that these RCVs are completely sealed and the nuisance will be reduced. We will step up enforcement against the dripping RCVs and also fly tipping, and we also install CCTVs at black spots to deal with fly tipping. No, time is up, Mr. Chen. My apologies. There are 10 members who are waiting in the line. My apologies, Ms. Mack, Ms. Helena Wong. Thank you, Chairman. We are facing this 3+1 package. In the last round, the Secretary suffered a Waterloo. What arguments do you have to convince the local people and to convince members that we should support your 3+1 package? You can deal with waste and you can address people's concern against pollution. You say clean recycling, you use a lot of words, but the public are concerned about the RCVs, dust, leachate, air pollution, odor, flies, so on and so forth. How can you address these concerns? That's the first question. According to your paper, from now until 2017, we still have to deal with 10,000 tons of waste every day. With the 3+1 package, the incinerator can only deal with 3,000 tons. What about the remaining 7,000 tons? What about the effectiveness of the food waste recycling facilities? And do you have a recycling target? Do you compel people to do recycling and also sorting and the recyclable materials will not be allowed to be put in the landfills and the incinerator. You will bar them from the incinerator and the landfills. And they can only be dealt with recycling. Can you pass laws to do that? C&D waste, which will be transported to Tseung Kwan O, will you amend the law so that there should be waste separation, waste sorting? Say in South Korea, they have clear sorting requirements. If you put all the C&D waste into one and then put them in the landfill, I think you should prevent that, or you should impose a very heavy penalty, heavy charge on that. I think we agree on 2 points. First, the overall waste reduction blueprint. We are serious. We have to deal with a long-standing problem. We have to implement the blueprint step by step. There is a blueprint in place. The second point is reduce the impact on the community. Say, take Tseung Kwan O as an example. We keep talking to them. We have listed a dozen or so measures which we have been doing, we are doing, and we will do. And we set up a district liaison group, and we get the stakeholders in the district to talk to us to deal with the details. We have a clear strategy to address the local concerns. Now there are 10,000 tons of waste. According to our blueprint, we are going to reduce the amount to be disposed of by 40%. If we can work together, we can achieve that. And after that, if the Sekuchao incinerator is completed on time, then it can deal with half of the municipal solid waste, and the other half will be put into the landfills. In Hong Kong, we have generated too much waste, and therefore we impose waste charging. That's the main theme.
Dr. Kwok Ha-ki, from last July till now, there has been ample time for government to rectify the situation properly. You said that you went to Tuen Mun, and some members of the Rural Committee went to the local town with you, and other than that occasion you refused the invitation several times to go to Tuen Mun. In fact, last year we made it clear that there were outstanding problems, and we need to discuss this not only at the Finance Committee meeting. And on the incinerator, the judicial review won't be completed until June. And in March, you will be going to Europe, and during this 8-day trip, we will visit some 6 countries, and we will also look at alternative technologies. And in fact, Madam Chair, I don't think you need to go. It seems that they have made a decision. It's just a waste of public money. You ask national members and government officials to travel with you, and when you come back, you're going to select this technology anyway. And what about the JR case? What if government loses? The so-called consultation was a meeting between local residents and Cheung Chau Rural Committee, and those Cheung Chau local residents just listened to the administration, and there wasn't any other consultation. And then you just told us that the consultation had been done and that public opinion had been considered. Now the duty visit is yet to be conducted. The JR case is still ongoing. Let's say if you're going to build 4 food waste facilities by 2022, I think everybody in this council will support you, and FC will also support you. On the contrary, the government is trying to bulldoze this proposal through, and this proposal is not popular. Dr. Kwok, over the past few months, my colleagues contacted the District Council, Rural Committee, and the villages at Long Ku Tan and Tuen Mun on more than 10 occasions. Madam Chair, he just visits district councillors. Now, we met with villages as well as district councillors. Members should clarify this point. And also, we have discussed this issue with the community. We understand that there is still an ongoing JR case, and there is a majority view in the community that we should implement an incinerator facility as soon as possible. So the further we drag on, the construction costs will increase. And there are two objectives for our visit to Europe this time. Now, for members, especially new members of this term of LegCo, this will be for their reference so that we increase our understanding. And also, in terms of long-term infrastructure planning, we want members to understand that we have this option today, and we need to plan for the technology to be used in 10 or 20 years' time. There are two objectives to this visit. In the long run, I hope members will understand that this is the line that we're thinking along. Apart from meeting with Cheung Chau residents, we also met with other residents. We also consulted the Islands District Council. All right, before I invite the next member to ask the question, I want to say that LegCo will be having a duty visit along with government officials, but it's really very tricky issue. Last March, we went with Secretary to South Korea on a duty visit. Afterwards, he suffered a Waterloo. So it doesn't mean that after going on a visit, we must vote to support him. You could impute the motives of the Secretary, but in fact, from the last experience, even after duty visit, we could vote against the proposal. So that's about gatekeeping. It's really embarrassing for the government to put this forward before we go on a duty visit. I won't debate with you, Dr. Kwok. Next, Mr. Ben Chan. Thank you, Madam Chair. Now, among the submissions, I think one submission has made a very good point. Secretary has tried to claim credit all for himself and to bulldoze things through. Now, of course, waste is an imminent problem, but the environmental impact on Cheung Chau is also a real issue. And for Cheung Chau residents, they have been very helpless. Although they have met with the Secretary, they have raised a number of issues which have yet to be responded by the administration. Some has put forward proposals for the government to consider, including electricity tariff subsidy and also fund for community green facilities. All these requests are left unresponded to. And then the administration just comes back and tells us that the consultation has been properly done. So I think that it's not fair to the residents you met. The second point is that incineration. Now, in the paper, little has been mentioned about the technology involved. It's just said that we'll use the moving grate technology, and by then, this decision was made back in 2002, and in fact, for other forms of technology, including plasma gasification, they have improved. So is it the case that the administration has been too lazy to look into other technologies? Or maybe after going to Europe, you will tell us that after looking at different technologies, we can decide that this technology is the best. But we don't have a rational analysis into these technologies. Secretary. Now, in this paper to the panel on environmental affairs, we mentioned our studies into the suitable energies to be adopted. From the last time of administration, we have been sparing no effort in following up on the latest technological developments around the world. Last year, we have an international conference on solid waste. It was held in Hong Kong. We had international experts and professionals coming to Hong Kong, and our colleagues discussed with them in terms of the moving grade technology which we've chosen, whether this decision can be changed due to changes in other technologies. So we have been closely monitoring other technologies, and the conclusion is clear. Other technologies have seen little improvements over the years, and whereas for moving grade, the technology is mature. For when we visited South Korea and Taiwan, they also have incinerators, and we have had exchanges with them, with their government officials, and we also will grasp other opportunities. For example, we're going to Europe this time, and see in 20-30 years time whether there'll be other ideas. So we take a more forward-looking approach. To go back to the first question, we discussed with residents in Cheung Chau and other islands on their health impacts, etc. But on community facilities, it's about how we can give more hardware to contribute to the community. Mr. Stephen Ho. Now, fishermen will be very unhappy as soon as they hear this word incinerator. Every time when we talk about the incinerator and reclamation projects, you keep telling fishermen that they will get the ex-gratia allowance. Over the past 2 decades, what benefits have been given to fishermen? And in the paper, you have quoted this estimated amount of EGA payable to fishermen being 6.28 million. Do you know how many fishermen will be affected? And also along Cheung Chau waters in Cheung Chau, how many nearshore fishing boats will be affected? Now, on EGA payable to fishermen, we looked into the impact. That area isn't a place with high fisheries gain, and yet as a matter of policy, we also provide ex-gratia allowance, and the FC has approved a more an enhanced proposal. The timeline has been expanded to 10 years, and we also seriously consider the effect on fishermen's. And we also have a fishermen enhancement program in Sokuwan, and we want to increase the quality of the mariculture environment for their benefit. And we can supplement other information later. What about the figure? How many fishermen will be affected? How many fishing boats will be berthed in Cheung Chau? As for the impact, one source comes from reclamation. Some 30 hectares will be reclaimed, and on dredging, this will be temporary, causing inconvenience for a month or so, and for Lantau South, the waters involved is very small in area. I'm asking how many fishermen will be affected. I know the facts is in the paper. I'm asking how many fishermen will be affected and the fishing boats affected. If you don't even have these figures, how well do you think that the figure will be sufficient? Well, if say there are many fishing boats there, will it be sufficient? As for how many fishermen will be directly affected, we have an interdepartmental mechanism. When the EGA is dispersed in the future, the AFCD will base the calculation on the number of fishing posts using a particular port, and in the process the departments will continue to be in liaison, and by then we can confirm the exact figure. In previous government projects, the government has conducted some assessments, and also in Cheung Chau, you can just look up the information. I don't understand why at this stage the administration has still refused to tell us how many will be affected. Is it 1,000, 10,000 or 100? Give us a broad ballpark figure so that we can see if it's fair to fishermen. So I hope the administration can give us the figures. Yes, we will liaise with the AFCD and give you this information after the meeting. Next, Mr. Wu Chi-wai. Thank you, Madam Chair. I really pity the government's work in waste management. You face challenges from various stakeholders when you try to launch any of the initiatives. Over the past decade, judging from the work of the government on waste management, we're really not convinced that after introducing the 3+1 proposal, the 3 landfill extensions and 1 incinerator, you are going to implement other initiatives as well. Now, for MSW charging, legislative process won't be completed until 2016, so it's still very far away, but the waste problem is getting more and more imminent. My simple question is this. Here, I see you've written among your 5 measures, one of the measures is clean recycling. I think you have incorporated the experience in Taiwan, and that recyclables and non-recyclables will be separated so that you can be more efficient in managing waste. However, on clean recycling, can you implement it in a short period of time? Say, can you work with the FEHD for them to dispatch 2 vehicles, one for recyclables, the other for non-recyclables, so that this can be implemented? This doesn't involve any infrastructure work. Will you do it? On food waste, if clean recycling can be implemented, you can use new technologies. And I understand that many investors have begun to invest in the technology of turning waste into burning rods with low boiling points, or energy rods with low boiling points. So will the government do more in this regard? When we talk about the refuse transfer station and the waste diversion plan, well, even for these ideas we need to wait until after March 2015. So we really question the determination and the commitment of the government in introducing these measures.
Even if we pass a law, what capability do you have to consolidate the resources and support given to you by the other government departments? Thank you, Mr. Wu, for the question. Concerning the waste transfer station, we have discussed with the FGHD, and we are doing conversion of the RCVs, which are under government contracts. So we are working with the departments very closely. And let me address the few questions raised by Mr. Wu at the start. Recycling is quite a complicated matter. We launched our Foodwise program. We found that different people have different understanding. Therefore, we have adopted a more professional and scientific approach, and we outlined the challenges and how we approach the issue. With regard to recycling, we have a steering committee, and we will implement the scheme step by step. Before I ask Mr. Kenneth Leung to speak, I will first comment on the project brief on the sludge treatment facility. It's not provided by the EPD. It is provided by Mr. Kenneth Leung. Chairman, I do not intend to speak on this sludge treatment facility. Mr. Wong, if you want to speak on your incinerator, you need to provide more information. Now, I dig up this sludge treatment facility file because it was in our files and it was in a very advanced stage before you produced this paper for us. In fact, you can provide us with more information on the incinerator. You may not be able to provide the drawings of the incinerator, but concerning waste, water, ecology, so on and so forth, you can produce a paper on that, but you have not done so, and you ask us to discuss the incinerator, which is rather elusive. Your paper has just a few paragraphs on incineration. Well, in fact, can you provide us a more detailed paper? I think this sludge treatment facility project brief, though is done at a very advanced stage, is something that can be a reference. So can you provide an incinerator, which is something like this project brief of the waste treatment, or the sludge treatment facility for reference? Now you say the incinerator that is in compliance with the EU standard can deal with 3,000 tons of municipal waste per day, and it can reduce the volume of MSW by 90%. So there will be a remaining 10%. The volume is reduced, but there is still weight. I don't know whether the reduction will also be in proportionate. Say 3,000 tons, a reduction of 90% will be 300 tons. The ash will be disposed at the landfills. Maybe 200, 300 tons of ash will be disposed of at the landfills. That is a problem with ash. Now these non-sludge waste, they will become ash, and there will be a problem. Ash can be carried in the air very easily. My colleagues have considered various ways to deal with ash. The HKUST in 2010 suggested 7 ways of dealing with ash. How are you going to deal with the ash? What is the arrangement for disposing the ash at the landfill? Is there any high-tech way of dealing with landfills to turn ash, a high-tech way to deal with ash so that the ash can be put to some good use without filling up landfill space? Ms. Au. Sorry, speaker is not coming through. Well, 2 to 3 years ago, we've already put that project brief online, and I'm willing to provide the link. And we also have a bilingual EIA report, and also the design and things like that. I can provide information to you. We are happy to provide more information. As for dealing with ash, in the EIA report, we have given an analysis. We'll adopt the latest treatment method. Now, as for the bottom ash and flying ash, they will be dealt with in an environmentally friendly manner. There will be a bottom ash recycling project. According to overseas experience, the bottom ash can be turned into construction waste, and that will reduce the amount of bottom ash. We have to deal with certain issues first. Mr. Gary Fan has already has just submitted a motion, and we have to deal with that. The first thing I have to do is that there are 5 members in the line. One member has withdrawn. So the 2 members who have enrolled just recently will have 2 minutes for them each, and I will give up my turn. I will use my discretion to lengthen this meeting by 15 minutes so that 5 members, the remaining 5 members, can speak. Mr. Gary Fan, Mr. Dennis Kwok, Mr. Frankie Yik will have 4 minutes, and then the other 2 members will have only 2 minutes, and then we will deal with the motion. Mr. Kenneth Chan just now said that he submitted a paper. He wanted a public hearing. So do we want to deal with this motion before the public hearing, or since we are going to have a hearing and people will give their views, so can we deal with the motion after the public hearing? Mr. Gary Fan, please be quick. Thank you for giving us your time. I believe many people of Hong Kong or green groups are not fundamentally opposing incinerators or high thermal incinerator. This is very effective way. If the government jumps into that, then there is no incentive for the government to reduce waste at source, to do recycling or sorting. If we look at how the government deal with MSW, I believe that the EPB, the Environment Bureau, has the determination to implement the blueprint. For 9 years, the government has failed to honor its promises. All the policy tools were available in the consultation paper in 2009. Many are still going on, say waste charging, food waste recycling, environment-friendly recycling facility, combating fly tipping, so on and so forth. We have yet to see any outcome. The sealing of RCVs have not yet completed. How can we just hastily support this 3+1 package? In terms of administrative arrangement, you should allow us some time so that we can see whether the measures introduced by the government are able to ameliorate the present situation. The situation of SENT, WENT, and AENT are very different, and in fact, this is concerning SENT, there is a big problem. Next to the SENT, there is a big housing estate with 50 blocks, and why can't you close the landfill after it has achieved its historical mission? I strongly urge the administration to provide more incentives to reduce waste at source and to step up recycling. There are priorities for different policies. The Secretary. Thank you, Chairman. I thank Mr. Fan for the question. I think the administration and members of this council have to answer this question. If you are to delay these infrastructure items, then there will be waste piling up in the city. The government is dragging its feet. The government has power. The executive has a power. Things in the past were for reference. Let's be constructive. Let's be forward-looking. How can we move forward to deal with MSW created by 7 million citizens every day? Concerning execution power. Say in Tseung Kwan O, we introduced more than a dozen measures. For combating fly tipping, we can give you data. In the past few months, we have substantially reduced fly tipping. How many cases have you caught? How many cases have you caught? I give you one. Just one case. More than one. With CCTV installation, we have taken a follow-up action. That's very specific. A specific achievement. Mr. Dennis Kwok, I have to attend another meeting and try to be brief. I hope the Secretary can give an undertaking. Now, we will go to Europe very soon. We are going to look at new technology. Can you give the undertaking that with regard to Sheku Chow, you will have an open mind? You have an open mind in the sense that if you have found new technology which is feasible, which will not encounter the problems we have considered before. Say, for example, abortive costs, or rather a very high cost, or the technology is not able to provide the handling of waste at a big volume. You still have an open mind. I think technology is one of the major bone of contention. You have not decided on the technology you have proposed. You can still have an open mind. Say, for example, ACOM, it is professional, it's independent, it has different views concerning plasma gasification. Say, in the United States.
Plasma gasification is not only environmentally friendly, but ready for large-scale commercialization. We are excited to partner with an entrepreneurial firm like AFE, one of the industry's leading developers, focused on building environmentally responsible energy projects using plasma gasification technology. 呢個 ACOM 自己講喎，喺美國。咁所以話即係你嗰個。
Now that's said by ACOM in the United States. Your consultant has a different view. So can you maintain an open mind? The Secretary. Madam Chairman, Mr. Kwok, concerning technology, basing my experience on environmental technology, I have been bold in trying out different technology in Hong Kong. We can test it out. We can use it as a pilot, and we can use some technology in a large scale. Different countries have different facilities. They can test out new technology. So when you go to in overseas countries, they adopt certain technology because of different background. We need to reduce our reliance on landfills. That's the mainstream opinion. We need to resort to technology. When we have the first facility, what sort of technology? We have an open mind, and our consideration maybe in terms of time, the volume handled, the cost, and also the standard. So you have an open mind. Yes. As for time, to be frank.
Say, if at the Sheku Chow site, due to changes in the technologies, we need to conduct another round of EIA, and that the project will be dragged on for many more years. And these are issues we have to consider. I hope that within this framework we can have a very frank exchange. Of course, timing is a problem. If Sheku Chow incinerator adopts a new technology that doesn't require reclamation, and the time needed for construction can be shortened a great deal, then in such circumstances, latest technology can be used and the construction time can be shortened, and we need another EIA, so be it. I really hope the Bureau can keep an open mind. To supplement, of course, this is just a hypothesis. If we want infrastructure in Hong Kong, from planning to going through the statutory procedures, we need years of time. Mr. Frankie Yick, thank you, Madam Chair. comparing to the last term of administration, this term of administration has stepped up this effort in managing waste. However, it seems that members are not happy with what we've heard so far. Today, we've received emails, and members have been urged to ask the administration some 6 questions on the technology selected for the incinerator. Now, I emphasize that I support the incinerator. Just now, as said by Mr. Dennis Kwok, is this technology the latest? When I discussed with some friends, and I was told that many countries are using this technology, which means it's outdated. So can these concerns be addressed? So about the 6 questions, Secretary, will you give us some comments so that, as we've received so many emails and submissions today, whether this comment is true or not? Maybe I'll defer to my colleagues to take the 6 questions. But going back to your question on whether this is outdated or not, well, let's say Mr. Yik is Mr. X works about it's in the transportation industry, and now throughout the world we're using Euro 5 standard for buses. And can we say that Euro 5 standard is already out of date? I think Mr. Yik will understand that it is not out of date. If the technology, it can only be said that the technology is mature. And I want to supplement that this technology is not out of date. It's called moving grade, but it's a modernized technology, and this is a technology that complies with the 2000 Euro standard. Regardless of the technology, we use the EU standard to see if this is a modern technology. And for incinerators built after year 2000, they mainly use moving grade technology. And in fact, in recent examples in 2009, 90% of the new incinerators use moving grade incinerators. The technology is different, and there are a lot of supplementing facilities, and the temperature can be kept at 850 degrees, and these are what new incinerators can do. And for emission, we have the 4-pronged approach. We also have the selective catalytic device, and therefore most incinerators use moving grade technology. It is not out of date at all. As for other technologies, they are still being developed. They can only handle tens of or dozens of tons, or just up to 200 tons. So we're still observing how these technologies will develop. And let me respond to some of the submissions on health impact assessment. This is also a major concern. We need to comply with the EU standard. We also need to exceed and pose a more stringent standard, 50% more, to minimize the health impact. And on air pollution, after conducting an assessment, we found that in Cheung Chau and Lantau South, overall speaking, the air quality or accumulated particles far below the standard required, and for the it contributes just 0.7%. Or 0.3%. As for whether we have failed at separating waste at source throughout the territory, we have implemented some initiatives in this regard. Sorry, Low I Kwok, only 2 minutes. All right, thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, in the engineering sector, over the years, we have emphasized reducing waste at source and recycling and proper management of waste. These things should go in tandem. When we talk about waste treatment facilities and the technologies today, we have been discussing these issues for many years. When Sarah Liao was the secretary, I was already participating in the studies, and there have been in-depth studies into various technologies. Of course, over the years, many technologies have evolved, they have been improved, and regrettably, as of today, we still don't have an incinerator. And I am going to join this duty visit to Europe. I think it is important because we want to get the first-hand knowledge and see how technologies have improved. On Sheku Chao, moving grade incinerator will be built on an artificial island and land has to be reclaimed. I am a member of the ACE. I'm also a member of the Town Planning Board. I cannot speak on behalf of government officials. I'm also a member of the Sustainable Development Committee. Back then, there was another location in mind, Chengzhou, and in the end, that site was not chosen. I also have some strong views, but we need to look at the objective situation. We need landfills, we need thermal incineration, waste to energy facilities. This is an imminent problem, which must not drag our feet, or our previous work will be a waste. And for moving grade incineration, this technology has matured, and from the study tours that I participated in, they have improved. You don't expect a response, right? Your time is up, Mr. Lee Chuk-yen. Now we talk about this 3+1 proposal, and that the proposal will be submitted to FC Finance Committee. I'm talking about 3 extensions, 3 landfill extensions and 1 incinerator. The community is all talking about the 3+1 proposal. However, we should look beyond the 3+1. We should look at the whole waste management system. Of course, I understand that you have some initiatives, a recycling fund, for example, but some may feel that some funds have been established for many years, and they need to ask how the system would operate. When we vote, can we look at the whole waste management system? You may have 5 different initiatives, but some may be taken forward, some may not. And for the 3+1, emphasis will be placed on this proposal, whereas for other ideas, they will eventually dwindle. And therefore, we need to look at the comprehensive system. So we should, instead of just discussing the 3+1 proposal, discuss other things. That is, we should all be responsible for some facilities. I'm not suggesting that there should be facilities in each of the 18 districts, because waste reduction is the responsibility of each and every person in Hong Kong. And we must not rely on one single district or some people to take up this responsibility. So I need to see the whole system. Will we know by then whether the administration will be favoring any of the initiatives? You only have a few time left. So the administration will tell you that papers will be submitted in due course. Yes, like I said, the papers will be submitted in due course, as Secretary said. We still have 4 minutes left. So I'd like to ask members' comments. In these 4 minutes, shall we deal with Mr. Gary Fan's motion? Mr. Gary Chan. Thank you, Madam Chair. I suggest that we deal with this motion after the public hearing, because in a moment we may have to make our position clear whether we support this proposal to be submitted to PWSC or FC for funding. Of course, we have our stance already, but if we deal with this motion today without a thorough discussion, we may send the wrong message to the public. That is, basically, we are for this proposal. So what's the point of having a public hearing? So I personally suggest that we delay the handling of this motion after the public hearing. So it's a question of whether we deal with it or not today. Mr. Gary Fan, I think it should be dealt with. Mr. Gary Chan and myself are elected members. We have been in contact with the district groups and local communities, and they want us to make a judgment today, and they have also given much time for the administration to impose alleviation measures, and so far we don't see any of them being effective. So just by a show of hands, briefly, let me ask how members think. Those in favor of handling this motion, the motion now, please raise your hands. That is, it will be put to a vote in a moment. Mr. Gary Fan. Those favouring dealing with this motion after the public hearing, please raise your hands. So I don't need to claim division, because apart from Ms. Gary Fan, everybody thinks it should be dealt with after the public hearing. I have discussed with the electrical secretariat, and we will be returning after the visit on the 8th, so it must not be before the 8th. And then on 14th, that is a Saturday, we have the information technology issue regarding the license renewal, and things might duplicate. So it's either the 20th or the 29th, 22nd or 29th, and we'll circulate to members and issue notice to circulate my members and see what date suits them, because there will be many deputations and we might need more than just a morning session, probably an afternoon as well. So that's the end of the meeting. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.